Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. This is Rosalind. So you know what that means. That means it is time for real talk now. Yes, yes. A survival kit. A survival kit contains the basic tools and supplies needed to prepare, to protect, and you know what, to even aid in an emergency. Things that we may find in a survival kit may include bottled water, non-perishable food items, extra clothing, and of course, a first aid kit. Now, during these perilous times, have you ever considered adding our faith, which includes our Savior and prayer, to our survival kit? Our guest tonight, Christine Collins, she knows all too well how she had to put all her faith in Christ when she was in a battle for her survival. You see, family, Christine is a survivor of the coronavirus, known to most of us as COVID-19. She knows all too well, when Christ is in the base of our survival kit, if he's the base, we can have peace, no matter what the outcome. Now, Christine, what I want you to do is please introduce yourself to the family and tell us just a little about yourself.
Good evening, everyone. As she said, my name is Christine Collins, and I just wanted to take this time to say that I am very thankful to be here this evening to share my story and my testimony with everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to my story this evening.
Okay, all right. Well, I want to start. I like to have a conversation because who knows your story better than you? Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to answer those questions from the heart, which I know you will. So what I want to ask you first is that your life, how is your life today as compared to your pre-COVID life?
It is so different. It is new. It is refreshing. I'm learning myself every day. I literally am basically experiencing a new life. The life that I knew before COVID is not the same life that I'm living now. I have peace that I can't even begin to explain. I do have my challenges, but that's to be expected. But my life now is pretty much at peace. I'm putting all my trust in God, and literally every need that I have, or I didn't even know that I had, is being met.
Every need. She said every need that she has. And when sometimes when people hear you say every need, when you say every need, what do you mean every need is met? I mean, I can assume.
It's not on a material level. It's on a mental level. What I didn't know was I needed someone in my corner that would trust me to be myself, that would support me in being myself, would support me, encourage me, help me grow to myself. Literally before COVID, I thought I knew it all. I thought I had it all. And I had this list of expectations. But after COVID, it's like, pew, out the window. And now I see what I didn't know was I needed someone in my corner that's kind. I needed someone in my corner that's understanding. I needed someone in my corner that would help nurse me back to health. I needed someone in my corner to say, hey, you need to sit down. You're doing just a tad bit too much. So literally, every need, those that I knew I needed, right down to the things that I didn't know I needed.
Okay, all right, that's awesome. Okay, so it sounds like to me you're pointing to someone specific. Am I wrong about that? Because I hear you keep saying I needed someone. Am I talking about? Well, you talking about a person?
No, I'm talking about in general, like family,
Okay.
friends,
Okay, and everybody.
Just my
okay.
whole surrounding, everyone that was in my life before COVID has literally supported me and provided my needs when I didn't even know that I needed them.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell me this. The beginning of your journey, okay? The beginning of your COVID journey, what did that look like? Because we can assume, you hear people say all kind of things that they didn't feel bad. They did feel bad. They didn't know they had it. They did know they had it. Tell me specifically from a person who has who's experienced COVID, how did it start for you? How did you know something was off?
I wasn't feeling well. I literally felt very fatigued, tired, and I slept. I mean, we're talking out of 24 hours, I was sleeping basically 23 hours or 20. I just literally would wake up to go to the restroom and right back on the sofa. I didn't even have enough strength to go to bed. So I started feeling kind of like my throat was bothering, my sinus was array, and I was in denial. I literally was like, COVID, no way in the world. I have a respiratory infection, or I suffer from bronchitis, anything other than I was not going to claim that. But I started to notice literally for me to go up my stairs to my bedroom, it wasn't happening. Midway, I would be so exhausted that I just had to basically stand still on the stairs and try to make, catch my breath, and then just flop on the bed. No energy, could not breathe worth anything. So it was a confusing time, but I learned a lot. I really did. I learned that trust and faith will take you very far. When I was feeling real bad and I wasn't claiming COVID, I literally found myself drawing closer to God. I was taking my anointing oil and I was just rubbing my body down, my throat down, and just begging, heal me, Lord, please, just heal me. And unfortunately for me, and fortunate for me, it was on his time. It was his will and his time. Oh, wow. So literally for anyone that experienced, that had COVID, I'm glad you're still amongst us. But my journey, it was very confusing. I went from being this active person to I can't even walk up a flight of steps. I went to patient first, just to, say, hey, I have a respiratory infection. Oh, we think you have COVID. I don't have COVID. 3 days later, I was like, okay, maybe I need to go to the ER because literally I could not breathe. I could not breathe.
Wow. So you did immediately, and the good thing is that you knew your body.
Yes.
Recognizing and knowing your body and paying attention to your body is the key. Because sometimes, especially as women, we have a tendency to keep going and going no matter what. And we don't always pay attention, or we give everyone else their attention. And we always usually give ourselves less attention. So I'm glad that you paid attention to your body and know that something was off. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Do you know how you were infected? And I say that too, because many assume only people that are affected by COVID are those who are being risky, those who are around everyone, those who are not wearing a mask. So we assume so many different things. Tell me, how do you think you came in contact with the virus?
I literally was at a gathering, and I'm not ashamed. That it was the weekend of convocation. That Friday night, I was baptized. That Sunday, I was ordained in the state of Virginia. And that Monday, I just started feeling bad. I was wearing my mask the entire time. We was practicing the distance rule. At the end of the day, it's God's will. There is no way to protect yourself from it if that's God's will, literally. I wasn't hugging anyone, or, I was constantly using hand sanitizer. The only time I removed my mask is when I was going to talk to someone that I thought I was safe. I thought I was safe, but at the end of the day, you can never be too careful because it is out there. It's out there. Even with a mask, you have I know people that they wore their mask faithfully, but they took the mask off after they touched something and wiped their nose, or they rubbed their eye, or they come in contact with it. So, but I literally, I guess it was just my time and my season.
And I say that too, because even those who have been vaccinated, people are still getting COVID, and I just don't want people to misunderstand that the COVID vaccine is not going to prevent you from getting COVID.
Exactly.
It's similar to the flu vaccine. I'm not saying, and I'm not comparing the flu to COVID. That's not what I'm doing. But just like the flu vaccine is not going to keep you from getting the flu, but it lessens the effect. It may lessen, it may not be as critical for you, okay? Because it's putting, well, we understand what it's doing. It's just a safeguard, but it's not a definite prevention. Had you been vaccinated, or did you not vaccinate?
I have been vaccinated now. I wasn't, it wasn't available at the time when I was sick, but I am vaccinated. I am about to receive my booster, but at the end of the day, I learned that I learned so much. You have what's called a bacterial infection, and you have what's called a viral infection. If you have a bacterial infection, you literally can go to the doctor and they can give you some antibiotics, I'm sorry. If you have a viral infection, it has to run its course.
Yeah.
It literally has to run its course. You can do everything in your power to treat the symptoms, but you cannot, it has to run its course. There's no cure for it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, literally, I have to apologize because one of the downfalls with COVID is I will lose my train of thought.
Okay.
It's called COVID fog or whatever. But I guess the point I was trying to make is literally when it comes down to the vaccine, and this is all someone's opinion, like this is just my opinion, similar to the flu shot. Every year you get a flu shot. It helps build antibodies into your system. It gives you that wall of protection so that when the flu is introduced into your body, it's not devastating. It's more, your body's like, oh, I recognize this. I know I got to start fighting. But if you're not vaccinated, you don't have those, that guard up. You don't have that protection layer up where if the virus were to enter your system, your body's like, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I handle this? So I think my personal opinion, vaccinations is the way to go. It's definitely not a cure, but it does support prevention.
Okay. And there are a lot of different treatments out here when I say treatments, how to help treat the symptoms. And I appreciate you telling us, that about actually no cure. The treatments that people receive, you hear so many different things out here to treat COVID, so many cocktails. Tell me what treatments did the medical providers, what were they able to do for you to determine? Because the first thing that they tried, the first regimen that they tried with you, did that work? Or did they have to keep experimenting until they found the treatment regimen that was tailor-made for you?
My experience was kind of unique, I guess. Literally August the 5th, I went to the ER because like I said, I couldn't breathe. So August the 6th, fog. August the 7th, I had respiratory failure. Literally, I had pneumonia double pneumonia in both lungs. And at that point, my oxygen was very low. My oxygen intake, my oxygen count, it was very low. It was very low. So they did try to, all they can basically do was just give me oxygen, help my body to try to heal itself, help my body, my blood to get this oxygen. So they put me on they have respiratory therapists, and they put me on like oxygen at first when I first went in, and then they put me on a heavier oxygen producing machine. And eventually when I hit respiratory failure, I unfortunately had to go on a ventilator. So it literally, they induced me in a coma and they placed me on the ventilator. I had a 50-50 chance of survival. And literally, they just, by then the virus had pretty much subsided out of my system, but now I had to deal with and fight with the pneumonia that had taken a hold in my lungs. And the only way I could survive that was I had to be placed on a ventilator. And literally, it was just giving me oxygen, giving me life. I was resting, and by the grace of God, I'm here.
Okay. I want to ask you, for those who may not realize some of the things that you're saying, and I want to assume, you mentioned respiratory therapist, you mentioned ventilator. Tell us the role of the respiratory therapist. What regimen did they have to do? Did they have to come in on a regular basis? Did they just, give you whatever they gave you and they left? Walk us through that a little bit on exactly what that is and what the vent actually does.
Okay, I can try to explain the best of my knowledge, because of course this was all explained to me after the fact. When you are in a medical induced coma, they literally give you medicine to help you forget. So things that happened on that Thursday, I thought happened after I was awakened. So it's kind of confusing to what day was going on, but I can tell you for what I remember. I just cannot tell you what day or what stage it was, before ventilator or after. So basically, the respiratory therapist is an actual team. They come in and they assess your oxygen and they do the best treatment plan for you versus how much liters of oxygen you're supposed to receive, how fast you're supposed to receive it, so forth and so on. So I can remember I had this mask on, and literally it was a clear mask that fit over my face. And it had like a little beak to it. And I hated this thing. It was noisy. It was uncomfortable. I didn't realize the trouble I was in physically. So they would come in and they actually monitor me 24/7. Like I had these pieces on me, for lack of better words, that set off alarms to the respiratory nurse. And I can remember I was just like, I've had it. I can't do this anymore. So I took my fingers and I dug deep in underneath that mask and I popped it off. You don't have to worry about me doing that again. That was instant. Oh no, I made a mistake. I cannot breathe. And within 2.2 seconds, the team was in. They was taking me. They took over. They said, Miss Collins, you cannot do that. They put it back on. They made sure I was comfortable. And I mean, it was just 24/7 nonstop treatment. I don't know if anybody experienced pneumonia before, but if you're laying on your back, it's hard for your lungs to start healing. So you have to lay on your stomach. That is a very uncomfortable position for me due to my weight. However, I do know that when they placed me on the ventilator, they had to constantly flip me over. So it was a constant rotation thing. And they later explained to me the reason they did that is because fluid would build up in your lungs and they didn't want it to be stagnant. They wanted to get it moving so I can express it out. So yeah, it was different. The respiratory team, my heart goes out to them. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate them now, where before I didn't even know they exist. But if you have a knowledgeable, strong respiratory therapist or team, whatever you want to call them, you got a fighting chance. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And like you said, with the ventilator, many don't realize that ventilator is basically keeping you alive.
Yes.
Because if you're not able to breathe,
mm-hmm.
you can have tissue death, brain death. All these things can
mm-hmm.
happen because you're not getting that oxygen in. And one other thing that's pretty important, I'm sure they probably had the pulse ox on your hand, your finger. Did they have that constantly monitoring you as well?
Literally, that is just once you reach ventilation stage, they do not they do not do the finger. I literally have a scar on my ear. They attach it to your ear, okay. And I'm not sure, but literally, they do monitor your oxygen by the gases in your arteries. Okay. I already don't like needles, but I promise you, I was calling Jesus and 17 angels when they took the gas out of this artery. It hurts so bad, but that is how they monitor it. They monitor it with my ear. They monitor my gas levels, and they monitor my blood, because literally your blood, it explains things that you will be amazed. You will be amazed at what they learn out of your blood. So, but yes, the finger thing, that's just basic everyday checkpoint. But once you reach the status of the level of care that I was in need of, they have different avenues to, monitor your oxygen.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, whether or not you've been vaccinated, have not been vaccinated, one thing that everyone has in common is they have to isolate themselves. Okay. Isolation is not an easy thing, especially if you may be a person who's a social butterfly, who enjoys family gatherings. And I know you, because y'all, this is my cousin, so I know her personally. Who like to be around, you like to be around the family. Okay, which is a great thing. Now tell me, what was the most difficult part about being isolated from others and only being around, even though you appreciate that respiratory team, your medical team, your providers, they're not your family. What was what was the hardest thing for you?
The not being able to talk, because I had vocal cord damage, not being able to see my family. Like I think I went probably 3 weeks without seeing my family. My mom, I just could not see my family. and I was enclosed in this isolated room. It was a glass room. It was intensive care, and there was one way in, and you had to enter in 3 separate doors. And it was just literally, it was nobody but me and God.
Mm.
And it was a lot of crying, because it wasn't crying because I was sad. I was just so overwhelmed with joy. Like, I was so thankful to be here that I just I couldn't believe it. But I will say this: everyone kept coming in my room, every nurse, every doctor, whoever, they would come in and they'll say, I'm so glad to see you today. Well, I'm happy to see you too. I know I look a mess. My hair's not combed, I just look, oh, I'm happy to see you too. And I got to the point I was looking forward to that, because it gave me some interaction with a human. Because when you are by yourself nonstop with nothing but you and your thoughts and your prayers and your whatever, it takes a toll on you. You literally, like, you feel like you're imprisoned in your own body, because you can't do anything. You just can just lay there. You lose track of time. You lose track of days. It's just, whew, it's tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. But I will say this: I can remember when, once I started to come around after being off the ventilator, I still had no idea that I was actually on a ventilator. I had no idea. And I can remember the nurse, she came in and she was like, well, what's wrong? I'm like, okay, I don't have my phone. I don't have my eyeglasses. I just want to text somebody. I want to call somebody. I want to do something. And they was like, well, you don't have a phone. And I'm like, it's impossible. How do I not have a phone? I know I came in with a phone, and I know I came in with my eyeglasses. So for almost like 4 to 5 days, I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my eyeglasses. So I'm just there. So finally, the nurse did whatever they had to do, look in the system, because they log everything you come in to the ER with. So they found out, yes, I did have my phone, I did have my eyeglasses, and I had a phone charger, but I did not have somehow in all the transferring of the different rooms and stuff, they lost my charger. So they reached out to, I believe it was my mom or my sister, I can't remember which one, for a phone charger. So I can remember I'm just laying there, and I'm just laying there, like, I'm comfortable. I'm not worried about anything. And I look, and in the glass, I see this. And I instantly start crying, because I couldn't say anything. My voice wasn't cooperating. And it was my mom. I'm like, is she kidding me right now? I'm like, I haven't seen you in forever. And I can't get up and hug you. I can't do anything. So it was just a simple case of, hi, Mom. And that was it. And that alone, it was like, yeah, it's time for me to get out of here. I got to do what I got to do to get out of here. But it took about another week and a half for me to get out. But the isolation is hard. Yeah. It's really hard. My heart goes out to anyone that has to be isolated alone. It's different when you're isolated with a person, but when you're isolated alone, it can be a bit challenging.
Yeah. And the one thing that I hear that you're saying is that it's a family disease or condition. I shouldn't say disease. It's a family thing, because it not only affects you. You just said your mom. She was grieving for her baby. So when she was doing that, I can see Joyce actually doing that. I can picture her doing that. And you see that so many times when you see, the news about COVID and the people being distant from their family. I'm sure that can be a hard thing. And I remember the very first thing when you were, first of all, when you finally got your phone, I'm sure you were just so pleased, because even though you were not able to see the text and the calls live, I'm sure you got a plethora of texts and just people praying that you realize how many people were
Yes.
praying for you. Tell me a
Yes.
little about that. I'm sure that can be overwhelming in a bit. Not overwhelming, but emotional.
It was. I literally, I can't even explain it. I was just like, wow. I never felt so much love in my life. Like literally, like, wow. I was receiving messages, and you're not alone. I'm here with you. And the strange part about it, it was I was receiving those messages from August the 5th, August the 6th, August the 7th. And when I sat back and I looked at them all, I was like, I responded on August the 6th. I responded on August the 7th. Have absolutely no memory of it. But what I remember is I was like, I am so thankful. I was so happy. I was just like, oh my goodness, I could not believe it, because literally my fighting chance was so low. They called my family in to come see me, to come say basically, I guess, their goodbyes. And to hear that now and sit back and look back through my phone history and my text messages and my Facebook page, and this was posted and that was said about me and this was said about me, I was like, wow, I got a lot to be thankful for. I've received a lot of love, prayers, support. My mom's church praying for me, my sister's church praying for me, my co-workers' church praying for me. It was just a overwhelming magnitude of support and prayers.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. And I know you felt it, because the first thing when you were able to respond to me, the first thing I said, how you doing? How you was like, I am so blessed. That's all you can just, I'm blessed. That's the only thing that you can say. You said, that's the only thing I can say is I'm blessed, because I did not have to be here.
That is true.
So that's and then, and the thing about when you go through something traumatic is remembering. I know you can't remember everything, but remembering that journey, how critical it was, because sometimes, and I can see this was how long ago?
A year and a half,
Year
close
and
to
a
a year
half.
and a half ago.
Okay. And I say that because unfortunately, once God brings us through things, sometimes we have a tendency to forget and go back doing some of those things that we used to do. And the thing I'm pleased, it just warms my heart to hear. I am not gonna forget what I just went through, and I'm gonna make sure that people know who brought me through this. Even though we were praying, like you said, the first thing you said, God's will. Now, also, when you finally, quote unquote, got back to normal, as you said, okay? Tell me about those after effects, because I hear you say, you're saying that your memory, even now, is still affected. Your long, and when you say not just when you were in the medically induced coma, but even today, your memory has been affected. Am I wrong? I don't want to assume that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I can have a thought and literally I can start speaking on it, and 3, 4 words later, it's like, what was I talking about? And it's embarrassing because like I know I had a point. What was it? And I just literally, oh my gosh, it's physically I am getting better. Like every day I'm like, hey, did I just walk 300 feet without losing my breath? So every day I'm getting better physically. Mentally, now that is the biggest challenge because I find myself, well, who is Christine? Like, because the Christine that I used to know is not the Christine I am now. And I find that one of the biggest effects that COVID had on me on a mental capacity is I do have COVID fog. I still do to this day have like, it's almost like my brain is foggy. I suffer from anxiety. I have to take it one day at a time. I have to learn what my triggers are to kind of control it. I limit my conversations because I don't want to give the impression like, are you going crazy? No, I'm not going crazy. I'm struggling, but I'm not going crazy. I'm learning every day. So, yeah, I would have to say on a mental capacity, it is a challenge. So, if you are with anyone that is a COVID survivor and they just don't think the way they used to think, or it's something about their mood that's different, and just be patient with them. It'll come back, but you have to be patient with them. You have to be understanding, you know, the little things that might not bother, that might not used to bother them, it might bother them now. Like now, I literally, I don't want anyone to touch me. Like, do not, just don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't get close to me. But that's a challenge that I have to overcome. If I'm in a, I used to be the life of the party, or well, I wanted to try to be the life of the party. I wanted to be the party. But at the end of the day, now, if I'm in a group or more than like three people, I'm very uncomfortable. It could be my family. I'm literally like very reserved and sitting back and I'm watching and I'm studying and I'm looking at my family and I'm appreciating. But at the end of the day, please don't touch me. It's just, it's just one of my triggers. So yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Mm-hmm.
What about your sleeping patterns? Because before COVID, I take it that you slept pretty good. Has
Mm-hmm.
that changed any? Tell me about that.
When I first came home from the hospital, literally I can go 48 hours without sleeping. I would just be wide awake. And it got to the point where and it was from me being on steroids and just this pill and that pill, trying to, fight COVID or whatever, or the symptoms of COVID. And I literally was 48 hours later, like, oh gosh, I just want to go to sleep, but I was not sleepy. And I found myself literally up all night, up all day. And if I did go to sleep, I could only sleep about maybe 2 to 3 hours. And then I just had to get up. I couldn't stand it. I would have to sit up, or I would have to watch TV or just hold my dog, whatever I had to do. Now it's getting to the point I sleep in spurts. So I find myself now waking up 4 o'clock in the morning with like a burst of energy, and I just fell asleep at midnight. I might take an hour nap throughout the day, but after that, I'm up. I'm like literally up. I'm up. I will eat dinner and I will fall asleep. The second I finish eating dinner, I will fall asleep. And before I know it, an hour later, I'm up. Now I'm up for another 6 hours. I finally fall asleep and I'm right back up again within 2, 3 hours. So my sleep habits have gotten kind of weird. But I was open and honest with my doctor, my primary care physician, and she gave me some methods to help, calm my brain down, because let just think. And I learned that I don't really care for the medicines that was prescribed to me to help me sleep, because it really puts you to sleep, and it's a
Yeah.
deep sleep, and it just didn't work for me, because it would be such a deep sleep that I literally was like checked out. Like I just we all human. But anyhow, I noticed that in order to soothe my mind, I literally have to have like a sound machine playing where it can be rain and thunderstorms or crickets in the grass in the summertime in the country, something for me to focus on to quiet my mind so I can go to sleep. Even if I stay asleep, like literally, I will pull up a thunderstorm on YouTube and it's 4 hours long, and I will fall asleep. And I can tell you the second that stop playing, I will wake up. So I'm learning tactics that's helping me remain asleep without having to take a lot of drugs and prescriptions, so forth and so on. So I think the name of the game is you got to stay relaxed, stay stress free, keep your mind calm, and you just got to press forward. Take it one day at a time.
Okay. Have you tried relaxation techniques like mindfulness training and just deep breathing exercises and the different apps and everything? And okay, so there's a number of things that you do to just to help combat that non-sleep, because that can be a problem if you don't get enough sleep. That can trigger some other things. So that's good that
Yes,
you're
it
really
does.
being really proactive there. Okay, all right. So tell me now, what are some of the precautions that you have adopted to increase, or just some of the things that you do now that you didn't do before, and that you were not as rigid about prior to COVID?
Literally, I find myself washing my hands more frequently. I mean, just simple things. Wearing my mask faithfully. Not trusting a cloth mask, like literally getting a mask with some type of filtration to it that can kind of absorb anything that's coming in the air. I keep my I started introducing things that help build my immune system. Like I'm starting taking more vitamins. I start taking probiotics. I stop drinking. Like I literally am trying every day to do things to improve my health. Like I watch what I eat now. I love, like, I just take it one day at a time. I basically pay attention to everything that I'm doing, what I'm taking in my body. I know now, like, I don't drink anymore due to the simple fact it does not agree with me. It literally, I cannot drink. I can drink a glass of wine, but outside of that, if I go beyond a glass of wine, my body is like, no, we're not doing this right now. This isn't good. And it literally will trigger negative effects on me. Mhm. So I have to pay attention to what I'm putting in my body. If not, I'm literally just setting myself up for failure, because literally it will trigger anxiety, it will trigger depression, it will trigger stress. And it's just, I have to be more careful. Literally, I have to be basically more careful. Where before I ate what I want, I drank till I couldn't drink anymore, and I didn't care. But now it's like you have to care, because this is real. This is real. This is life. So I'm
Yeah.
taking all the precautions I need to.
Okay. So what can we expect from you? What can we expect from you now? What's in the future for you?
Um,
Or what are your desires, I should say, your plans for the future?
my plans for the future, believe it or not, I have started my own business. Um, I have my LLC, and I literally am getting ready to apply for a nonprofit organization, because I find myself literally being drawn to like homeless people, or I just feel a need, an overwhelming need to want to help. Like I just want to help, but I want to help from a distance. But no, I that's what you can expect. You can expect that I am like, I'm just changing. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm improving. I,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm
Hmm.
I just, I don't know. I feel I've been truly blessed, and God has blessed me with his grace, and I just want to share it. Like my heart goes out to any and everyone. I've always had a big heart, but now it's just out. It's
Yeah.
just out there.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you said about the heart thing, I was going to mention something about that. You've always had that caring spirit, that creative
Mhm.
spirit. Sometimes God has to get our attention in order to use those gifts that he
Mhm.
gave us. And one thing is beautiful. That's why I wanted to ask you what now, because when we use those gifts, and so what is the best way to use those gifts than to share with someone what you've been through in order to help them get through it? That's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that, unfortunately, you had to take the long route maybe to get there, but that's okay because you're there.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what's unfolding for you in the future. So I'm going to be watching, and maybe when you get that nonprofit and your thing together, maybe you can come back on and then we can do part two and tell them what has this transpired into. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Okay. So
Yes.
how can
Yes.
someone get in touch with you in case you're on Facebook? Oh, yes, you're on Facebook. Tell them if they
Mhm.
want to get in touch with you on Facebook or email, what have you.
If you want to get in contact with me on Facebook, basically it's my first and last name, Christine Collins. My email is I say Chris E, but everybody say K Rise 257 at gmail.com.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and end now unless you have any more questions. But I want to make sure that everyone who's on Zoom, you stay right there. Do not get off. Make it a good one, family.